From the Open Season Property Studio, welcome to SuperTalk Outdoors, where every single Monday at lunchtime we celebrate the world-class outdoors of the state of Mississippi because we are the capital of the outdoors in America. There's literally no doubt about that in my mind, and your mind either, for that matter, especially if you know what it is we have to offer on so many wonderful dimensions when it comes to enjoying the outdoors. It's November the 4th, 2024. Listen, we planted our food plots a little over a week ago, got some good strategic rain right after we planted, and then got a little bit more rain toward the end of last week, and we checked yesterday, and the ones we drilled, it looks like carpet already in just about a week. It's beautiful to see that happening. Last year was so dry, if you remember, got a little bit of rain, but not enough to really matter. Our food plots last year, some were okay, some were really anemic. And we really are working hard this year to have good food plots because, as my son Jordan attested to, William McKinley from the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks, the head of the whitetail deer program for the department, last week said this as well. But the acorn crops are not good this year because of we're now seeing the impact of the drought, last year's drought. And when Jordan was in the woods yesterday, he said, man, there's literally no acorn crop. And so the food plots are going to be really important. What we're seeing is where our farmers left a little bit of soybeans, we're seeing deer out on those soybeans because the truth is there aren't food plots for them to eat now at this point. There aren't good acorns out there right now. So it's going to be interesting from one year to the next. Deer hunting can be very dynamic. So this year it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Went fishing Saturday morning. I didn't plan to go fishing Saturday morning. I was on my back deck talking to a friend of mine, and I looked out over the water, and it was slick as glass, and the sun was coming up. It was absolutely beautiful, and I saw birds diving all over the place. So I said, look, I'm going to go fishing. So I literally just went down to the pier and threw the cast net one time, loaded a bucket full of shrimp in one cast, lowered the boat, had two fishing rods, one with a top water and one with a cork, and went to a little favorite spot. And the first cast caught a 3-pound speckled trout. And that's the way it was for the next 30 minutes. It was absolutely epic. The fishing in coastal Mississippi right now is as good as it's been in many, many years. Captain Cal Johnson, charter boat captain down here on the coast, is going to be joining me toward the end of the show, and he's going to give us a quick fishing report. But I already can tell you what he's going to say. It's great. Fishing is really, really good right now. Okay, let's shift gears and move over to my friend Houston Havens. He's head of the duck program for the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. He's a regular here on this show and someone that I really enjoy visiting with. Houston, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. Good morning. How are you?
It's good. I'm doing really good. So where are you sitting right now?
I'm in our Jackson office today. We're on Eastover Drive.
You listen, I want to cover a lot of ground today. We can talk about some of what my experience has been getting into the woods and seeing some ponds that are not as depleted as they were this same time last year. Some of our breaks don't even have any water in them right now. So that's going to be interesting. I think people are going to be pumping a lot of water like they did last year. It's not as dry as last year, and we got good rain chances coming forward. We'll talk about that. I want to talk about the efforts you guys have on public land. You know, you've really done such a great job of making duck hunting the best that it can be on the public land that you have access to, and I know you guys have a lot of effort there. But just in general, what's your thoughts on how the season is going?
Yeah, so it's of course it's early here in Mississippi. We're tracking some things well to the north of us. One being weather, and then also a little bit of waterfowl survey reports that other states have going on, and some early season indicator reports from states well to our north. And then here in Mississippi, you mentioned pumping, and that's the name of the game for us right now in wildlife management areas. We know that a dry year like this, like last year, public hunting areas with pumping capabilities especially are going to be at a premium. They're going to be really, really important with a lot of public use, and so we're getting geared up for that as best we can.
I don't know if you caught my show with Ramsey Russell last week from Ducks.com and from it's Duck Season Somewhere podcast, but he was in Canada, and he said, man, if you drive through some of the pothole region of Canada, there's a lot of dry potholes. And then, of course, he spent some time in the flyway up north of Mississippi as well. And, the name of the game so far has been the lack of rain. Is that essentially what you're hearing as well?
It is, yep. We were super dry, like you said, last year in Mississippi. I think it's a little more widespread up through the Midwest, just looking at drought monitor sites, things like that. That's what we're hearing from our colleagues, that it's going to be a challenge. And, weather's so important for waterfowl, whether it's on the breeding grounds and potholes for birds to raise their broods on, and then habitat is their own fall and winter migration all the way down to Mississippi, where we're hoping a lot of birds spend the winter with us this year. We're going to have a lot of wetland habitat to provide for them.
So, yeah, a lot of pumping's going to go on unless we get a significant amount of rain. Now, look, listen, as we're doing this show, there's a tropical system, a very rare tropical system. I think in history, they call climatological history, 4 hurricanes have made landfall in the northern Gulf. So it's extremely rare to have what will potentially be a hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico this week. Now, look, there's a lot of wind shear. There's some cooler water. There's a lot of atmospheric conditions that will probably, as this thing approaches the coast, wherever it hits, probably going to knock it down, could completely obliterate it. But we don't know. A lot yet to be determined about the path. The National Hurricane Center talks about that. But if you look at the models, Houston, some, as I was mentioning before we went to the break, before we started the show, some of the models indicate 0 rain coming from this in the delta regions of Mississippi. Some actually show incredible interaction with the front and massive amounts of rain. But it would be good. I mean, you don't want to see a tropical system. I don't think anything serious is going to come of it as it relates to that. But it would be good to see an interaction with the front and get some good rain all across Mississippi, wouldn't it?
Absolutely would, and I'm hoping that coming on your show again is going to be a good luck charm to get us some of that. If you recall, last time I was on, you were getting ready for a storm in the Gulf, and we ended up getting some pretty good rain out of it. We hated it for the farmers that were still trying to harvest crops, but hopefully most of the crop is out by now, and we're starting to get ready for some. We talk about different types of rain, even, and we've had some food plot rains here recently. May get a little more this week, but it's getting to the time of year we need some duck hole rains. There's really hard, fast rains that are going to have a lot of runoff and fill our wetlands.
Houston, I know that there is debate about this, ongoing debate about this. But the good news is, and I think debates are good. I think debates about any subject matter related to conservation is good, because what it does is it forces people to put their cards on the table, and we can come to an understanding about why we need to do things in certain ways. But the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks Commission has voted positively to continue to help us contribute toward wetland and other habitat enhancements up the Mississippi Flyway, up into Canada, which is important because that's where our ducks come from. We can't do that alone. I mean, we would never be able to make an impact alone, but when we can pull our money with other states, it makes a huge difference. And Ramsey talked about this to some degree, and that is that it's really a team effort when you come down to it. When you think about all of the states in the Flyway, our ducks come from the north of us. And if we don't keep that concentrated team effort where we're pulling our money to help in that region, it will impact us. So we've had good success doing that, haven't we?
We have. Migratory birds are a continentally shared resource. Just like you said, it takes all of us pulling together the same direction. Mississippi is a state that's been blessed with a state waterfowl stamp that is directed toward waterfowl habitat management and population management, and so we have a funding source to be able to cooperate with really good partners like Ducks Unlimited Canada and Delta Waterfowl to help make some of those things happen for breeding populations that are going to be coming to Mississippi. And we have really strong data to support that that's where our birds are coming from. So it's a really great partnership, really important work.
Listen, when people think about duck hunting, Houston, you've heard this before. They say that it's a rich man's sport. And believe me, I know some guys who have significant amount of land, and they have every possibility as it relates to duck hunting, whether it's, flooding open fields, whether it's, getting down into the hardwood bottoms and flooding that and creating wonderful breaks. And, they do it all. Some spend tens of thousands, some spend more than that on fuel for pumps and all of that. But Mississippi has done a great job of making sure no matter what your income, there's an opportunity for you. So when we come back on the other side, we're going to talk about the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks efforts in the public access parts of Mississippi as it relates to duck hunting. So you can, if you're not aware of it, you can know more about it. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Houston Havens from the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to Super Talk Outdoors from the Open Season Properties Studio. Listen, Open Season Properties is a full-service real estate company with a team approach philosophy that ensures your needs are the highest priority, whether it's rural land sales, residential, or commercial properties. Open Season Properties markets and sells real estate in Mississippi, Louisiana, Arkansas, Tennessee, Alabama, and Georgia, and they're dedicated to the development of long-term client relationships and unwavering commitment to service. Go to openseasonproperties.com to learn more. We're thrilled to have them as the primary studio sponsor of Super Talk Outdoors. Incidentally, the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks Marine Foundation is raising money for the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks and the Department of Marine Resources. The foundation does their annual governor's hunt, which has been incredibly successful. They also have an annual raffle. This year's 2024 mega raffle is ongoing as we speak. And listen, there's like 550 incredible prizes. So whether you're looking for a new truck or outdoor gear or cash, you need to get yourself a ticket. They're $100 each. You can go to the foundation website to learn more. And by the way, there's also a 50-50 raffle where the pot is growing every single day. Last year it became $320,000, and they're aiming for much higher this year. $25 for a ticket can land you half of that pot. So again, go to the foundation website to learn more. I want to thank you for supporting the foundation and helping to ensure that we are working with the Department of Marine Resources and the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks to ensure that we've got great hunting and fishing and wildlife conservation here in Mississippi for many years to come. So back to my friend Houston Havens, who's head of the duck program for the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. But, Houston, you've heard the story. Duck hunting's a rich man's sport. But we've done a good job in Mississippi of making sure that's not necessarily true, haven't we?
I think so, and certainly duck hunting has maybe a higher ceiling than other sports, in the department of, what can be spent, if you just, went all out and all the gadgets, all the, property management expenses, things like that. But we do have a wealth of public land in Mississippi on wildlife management areas that the state manages, national wildlife refuges as well. And those are extremely popular for public waterfowl hunters throughout the year, any year really, but especially on years where it's really dry like this, and we have quality habitat early in the season, which our folks are working right now really hard, being sure that that's provided, and it's going to be well used by the public.
So, give us an idea where some of these great waterfowl public hunting opportunities are. And give people a sense of the kind of work you're doing to make sure that you take full advantage of whatever ducks are here.
Sure. So we try to manage a variety of wetland habitat types. So we have some areas where we do cooperative farm leases. Think of areas like Howard Miller WMA, O'Keefe, William Devaney WMAs. So we have some agricultural lands that have been harvested there that will flood for some waterfowl habitat. And of course, we manage natural moist soil habitat. We talk about that a lot with private landowners, and we do it on our public areas as well, to provide some different food types and more diverse wetland habitat systems that are attractive to waterfowl. And then we also have some flooded forest lands on green tree reservoirs and other areas that just naturally flood with overbank flooding from river systems, things like that. And so not only do we have areas that are spread across the state, and a lot of the better hunting areas are in the Mississippi Delta, but we have a variety of habitat types for people to go out and enjoy. We hear from a lot of people that are looking for, maybe they're traveling to hunt and they're going to a place they've never been before and they want to hunt in the woods. We can provide that and give them some direction on areas that they can do that. Some people are just looking for, just like you said, just opportunity to go. Do you have areas that I can just show up and go hunting and try to figure it out myself? And we have that as well.
So the rules and availability is a little different from one to the next. A little nuance there, because the truth is, when I'm meeting with Adam Butler, who's head of the wild turkey program, wild turkey hunting in Mississippi has been really, really popular. The same thing is true for ducks, very, very popular. So there's a big demand. And so as a result of that big demand, you have to kind of manage the pressure. Give us a sense, just kind of an overall sense of what you have to do in that regard, and then how people can learn more if they want to learn more.
Sure. Yeah. So not only diversity of habitat types, but like you said, different hunting system types. How we manage the hunting pressure on areas can vary from area to area. And so we do have some areas that are just what we call freelance areas. They're open when the duck season is open. You can go out and find a place to hunt. And we do think that that's valuable to maintain some of that opportunity. We also manage some areas that are just limited to the days of the week. But if it's, if it's a Monday, Wednesday, Saturday open area, then if the duck season's open, you can hunt on those days. And then more on the extreme side of managing more for a sort of a quality type of hunt, we have draw hunt areas where people go online and apply before the season. If they're successfully drawn, then they'll get a date in an area that they know that they're going to be able to show up and have a spot to be able to hunt. We find that that's popular, especially with more novice hunters that are kind of intimidated by, the hustle and bustle of showing up on public land. Just knowing that they've got a spot on an area on a day that they can go ahead of time and check out and then show up and have to themselves is really valuable to have as well.
Yeah. I know the hustle and bustle side of that. Well, not personally, but my son Jordan, this, when he was in law school at Ole Miss, he would get up at 3:30 in the morning in order to make it to a gate, and they would open it up, and of course on really, really frozen mornings you would see people running, sliding across the ice to get to their spot, and it can be rather crazy. But man, if you put the time in and you learn how to do it, you can have some really great hunts, can't you?
Absolutely, and we do. We have people that are calling, this time of year, and maybe even no water on the area where they're going to be hunting, but they're trying to figure out, how was this area managed? Where do we expect water to be by opening day? Things like that. So they're getting prepared for it right now.
That's so exciting. You're also, really focused on food sources. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, our wildlife management area staff works really hard throughout the year. The hay is kind of in the barn, so to speak, this time of year, but they are in areas where we're not actively pumping already. They are still getting into those areas. The good thing about managing natural food sources is you can still go into those areas before you flood up and do some mowing or disking to create openings. We put a real emphasis on that for just managing showy water, because a lot of times if you just flood something, a food source may be there, but not having open pockets of water that birds can see from the air and just kind of read the landscape and select an area for, we find that that's really important early in the season, just having those openings in our WMA impoundments. And so, yeah, we have agricultural crops, we have moist soil habitat, we've got some semi-permanent emergent marsh, and then flooded forest land. So we kind of have a mix of it all depending on what hunters are looking for.
Yeah, you have some areas where we hunt, the buck brush can get overwhelming, and we're working harder now to go in there and open that stuff up while it's dry. Get that buck brush out of there, and the open water is a big deal, isn't it?
It is, and that's a great point. The buckbrush or scrub shrub habitat, it's a valuable habitat component, but we encourage our WMA managers and private landowners that we're working with, when we get a year like we just had the last couple of years, where maybe you've got some areas that you haven't seen dry in a long time during the summer, early fall, that's a great time to get in there and work on those areas, because you know, if we turn back into a wet cycle, you may not get a chance to go in and do some mechanical manipulation in those and create those open pockets of water.
So back over to this. So anyway, congratulations on the work that you guys are doing on the public land side of things. I wanted to make sure people who are listening know that you know, there's some great places for you to go, and it's, you know, it's kind of, once you choose a spot, it's about learning the nuances of that spot, and there are people there to help you think it through, and don't be intimidated by it. I mean, I think that bottom line is, I think most people, when they go do something for the first time, it can be very intimidating, but once you get to know it better, you'll be glad that you took the time to learn it, because the duck hunting can be really, really good. On the private land side of things, you and I have had many conversations about this, but it really comes down to, we need as much habitat as we can get. I mean, that's really important. As much open water, as much food, as much of all that as we can get, because the big story in Mississippi over so many years has been the loss of habitat. It's just the reality of farming and so on. But farmers have played a great role in helping create habitat and so on. And you do a lot of consulting with private landowners who say, okay, come show me, look at this and tell me, what do you think? And you've given some, I wish I had a list of the number of times you've actually provided that wonderful advice. I bet over the years it's a long list. When we come back on the other side, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the advice that he gives to private landowners. And if you have land yourself, or you lease some land, this team is there to give you advice. He'll tell you how you can how you can reach them and get the advice that you're looking for. So when we come back on the other side, we'll continue our conversation with Houston Havens, head of the duck program for the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. See you after this. Welcome back to Super Talk Outdoors. Listen, are you looking to purchase the perfect piece of hunting property, upgrade your farm equipment, or have you been dreaming of owning your slice of heaven out in the country? Look no further than Mississippi Land Bank for your financing needs. For more than 100 years, farming families and landowners in North Mississippi have turned to Mississippi Land Bank for all kinds of financial solutions, whether it's for land, equipment, or livestock. For more information, visit mslandbank.com or go by and see one of their friendly staff at any of their offices. Mississippi Land Bank, love to have them as one of the sponsors of Super Talk Outdoors. Now let's get back over to Houston Havens. We're going to talk a little bit about private consultation and what they're doing there. But real quick, I'm curious about something. Don't you have the aerial surveys about to come up? And also, we didn't talk about teal season. How's that going?
Yeah, so a good point. Our aerial surveys are going to be starting next week. Really popular with the waterfowl hunters and the public in general. And so if the weather holds up, then we'll be hopefully getting a report out late next week or early the following week, but definitely in time for the waterfowl season opener. We expect to see not a whole lot of wetland habitat unless we start to get a lot of rain between now and then, but those reports always kind of compare where we are going into the hunting season and where this year stacks up with past years. What we found is November is not really an indicator of how the season is going to turn out, but it's always good to see where those early ducks that come here, regardless of weather, really, they're just coming here regardless, where those birds are settling in, where the habitat is, and kind of how they're distributed across the Mississippi Delta.
Listen, by the way, as a guy who does this for a living, I bet you every year look forward to that, because it is a great opportunity to kind of get a lay of the land and sort of lay a foundation for how you're going to measure the season going forward.
It really is. We drive around, as we'll talk about here in a minute with the private land consultations. We cover a lot of ground in the trucks, getting around and visiting public and private lands, but getting up in the plane and seeing it from that perspective really paints the picture of what, the habitat is looking like and how things are progressing throughout the winter.
And tell me about the teal season. How did that go?
Yeah, teal season started out really good, at least looking at our harvest on our wildlife management areas. The first weekend, 3 or 4 days after that was really good. And then we hit a lull where, harvest was down. And then back at the last weekend, things picked up again. So it turned out really well as far as harvest numbers compared to past years, but it kind of just was hit and miss as teal hunting usually is, depending on when you went and how your hunt turned out.
Very, very good. So listen, how often does your phone ring with someone who owns land that says, Houston, I've heard great things about you and the department and your team. How can I utilize your services? Tell me about that.
Yeah, we get a lot of contacts. Really starts right at the end of duck season a lot of times, and we start to schedule things sometimes in late winter, but usually try to start those in the early spring. And then, of course, throughout the summer when the growing season is going on, people are getting out and starting to think about the upcoming waterfowl season. We'll start to do more technical guidance or site visits then. And kind of tailing off at this time of year, of course, things are pretty well managed. We're kind of shifting from management into the monitoring aspect of seeing when birds are here and where they are. But yeah, Mississippi is mostly privately owned, and so we put a lot of emphasis on working with the private landowners to help manage our natural resources, and waterfowl is no exception there.
So I assume they just go to the website and go to your program. Tell us how to get more information.
Sure, they can do that. Our contact information, either myself or Darren Hardesty, who also works in the waterfowl program, we can be contacted directly. We also have a private lands program that has a technical guidance or a site visit request form on our website. And so you may be a landowner that is interested in multiple things. And so you can go on there and fill out your information, list your priorities, and then our staff can take a look at that and see maybe we need to send a couple of different biologists in different programs to do a joint site visit. We get a lot of value out of that as well. And so we can kind of direct who needs to go to a property based on that information, and we can track landowners and what their requests were through those forms.
We're the capital of the outdoors in America as we pay attention to the details, and folks like Houston Havens are doing their work. Listen, Houston, it's been a pleasure to catch up with you, my friend.
Thank you. Always enjoy it.